If your internal systems are not set up to enhance what works, then more headcount does not mean that you will get more done. As much as uh, physics says that yes, we have more people to lift the load should be distributed equally. It doesn't happen that way. Organizations are complex systems and they need intentionality to run and make work easier. Welcome to this particular webinar. I am Dennis Muthuri, a co-founder at Tizisha, and I would like to take the time to just appreciate you for joining this particular webinar and taking the time out of your busy schedules to just engage in this topic and engage your curiosity within this particular idea on how to stop scaling disorder within your team. So as I said earlier, you are free to react anytime and chat at any point on anything that you feel stands out for you. And I wanted to just say that a bit of introduction, if you don't know Tizisha, basically Tizisha exists to make organization success repeatable. That's what that's our why for existence, if you'd call it that. And the key thing is we believe that when successful practices can scale beyond individual talent, profit is an inevitable outcome of this. And if you want to check out this set of beliefs, but enable us to at least bring a product to market, and you can check this out on tizisha.com. It's a learning and development platform which is specifically tailored for micro learning and geared towards eliminating the routine training and onboarding tasks that normally take place when you have to onboard teams, also frontline teams, and also just train them. So feel free to check out tvisha.com at any time. So next, I will just head over to the poll and just to get a read of where we are at with regards to this particular topic. The leading is there is something that needs to be tweaked. I think we have only 25% basically have, but we have more responses on the bottom half which say that something has to be tweaked or something just collapses and you're in chaos for a while, which means that this is a topic that is important to engage in, or rather the relevance for this topic on our part is established. So what we are going to go into is, why does growth hurt for some teams and not for others? So the logic behind hiring is that when you add more people to a team, work should get easier in the sense that if you are carrying a load and you're carrying something that's around 40 kg and you're carrying it alone, it's more tedious. But if you carry it with someone else, it's supposed to be lighter. The logic around this and the physics should also apply to organizations. But in most cases, you find that that's not the case on all times. So we ask ourselves this question then, what is a team's true breaking point, right? And that's a question to ask yourself. What do you think is the number at which a team stops working? Feel free to comment on chat or just answer it within, depending on where you are. And you kind of understand that the answer may be, it depends, right? So it might be one for others, it might be two for others, it might be when you add three, it might be at the point where the team goes to 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. But the thing is, you might find that it's not such a big number. And the realization behind this is that if your internal systems are not set up to enhance what works, then more headcount does not mean that you will get more done. As much as physics says that yes, we have more people to lift the load should be distributed equally. It doesn't happen that way. Organizations are complex systems and they need intentionality to run and make work easier. So if you're not set up to accommodate, you are not set up to grow. So the key thing that goes back to the question, at which point does everything go into chaos? Depends on how your systems and your culture is currently set up. There is a quote that I like that I want you to keep in mind as you explore. This I got from James Clear, who's the author of Atomic Habits, which is a great book. And it says that you don't rise to the level of your goals, but you simply fall to the level of your systems. So no matter how much you want to accomplish as a company, an organization, a team, if you don't have the right systems and the right accommodation set up, you'll just fall back to what already is, which might be chaotic. So a follow-up to this is basically, you might have all the best talent, but if you do not have the great systems and if you don't have the right infrastructure for them to thrive in, they will not grow correctly. That they will, or rather, they will not work at their best. You will not work at your best as well. And so, yeah, we kind of find ourselves in this point where you're asking, okay, we've established that we need systems, we've established that we need to be set up to accommodate. And what do we fix? And the key thing is, what we're going to look into and spend most of the time on is looking at removing ambiguity. Removing ambiguity is the thing I want you to keep in mind. Removing ambiguity and building clarity in these three areas will allow you to scale order faster than you can imagine. And the opposite is, as in, if any two of these areas are in bad shape at any given time, automatically will scale disorder. And in order to just run through these, I want you to just remember the CAE framework, CAE. CAE, okay, depending on how you pronounce, the CAE framework. Basically, your communication, accountability, and execution system. The idea is your communication is your information system, accountability refers to your ownership system, and execution refers to the delivery system. If you look at it, the order is from the left to the right because the first two have to happen in good fashion first in order for execution to happen. If you have someone just join and if you want to do something, you are set up to accomplish this wonderful goal. And you're focused on the doing, but you don't have the first two figured out, there's going to be a lot of chaos that you're going to have to scale. So you find that there's these piecemeal solutions that are usually set up to create accommodations because the first two don't work. You find these funny processes at the end where execution is supposed to happen and you wonder, why are these people serving me like this? And it's because these first two, it's just a symptom of these first two, your communication and accountability that haven't been set up correctly. So the first one we'll just go to is communication, which is your information system and the lifeline through which your ideas spread. 3 points to keep in mind under communication is 1, team size, shared knowledge, and purposeful discussions. These are the 3 key things under communication. Under team size, there is something called Metcalfe's law. And if you've never heard of it, it came from the telecommunications world and just states that a network's value increases exponentially in size the more people that use it. And basically, the more people that use it, the more their participation enhances that particular network. It means that when you have one person, 2 people network, you have only one line of communication. That's one line of value. When you have 3 people in a network, you have 3 lines of value, right? And then you move to 4 people, and then all of a sudden you have 5 lines, right? Now remember, each of those lines is a line of communication that has to be managed. And this is ideally the law of communication complexity, which you can check out. It means that you need to keep your team at a manageable number, a number whose lines of communication you can actually manage at any time. Because once a team, in most cases, or at least, I mean, what I've seen in my experience, like anytime a team gets to above 6, just find a way to split it into a smaller group because you're going to be handling a lot of lines of communication. Already at 6, you're handling 15 lines of communication. That means there's a lot of potential for broken telephones the further you scale out. The other thing is shared knowledge, right? So if you think about a time where you joined a company and you started your job and you have consulted for someone and you have gone and asked, okay, how do you do this? And they say, oh yeah, go and ask that person, right? And you kind of ask yourself, okay, why am I asking that person? Like the organization might even be 15 years old or 10 years old. And you kind of expect that these things have been written down by this time, that there is some sort of established way to actually get things done, and it should be documented in an ideal sense. But without the shared knowledge base, you always find that this thing of the response of ask someone just stops scaling at around 8 to 10 people. Again, remember your communication line. It means that knowledge has to be centralized, especially common operational knowledge. The common questions that every new hire just asks should be pointing to a doc and not a person. So the key action point here for you is just, create a knowledge hub and a central store for your SOPs. You can use learning and development platforms like the one Tizisha offers, or even as simple as, you can go to just set up a Google Doc that people can refer to. However, you have to note that you have to keep those organized because they can tend to get messy. Learning and development platforms, just speaking with a bit of bias, tend to be more organized. You can track who viewed, and you can also just structure them in micro learning format. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing is have purposeful discussions. The point is not to just have meetings, but to have meetings that deliver value. So not every meeting should cover the same thing. Like not every meeting is just a common discussion. Have predictable ceremonies so that you can at least, what I call ceremonies, so that you can have an outcome that is predictable. Have your daily syncs for example, have daily syncs for exactly that. Short stand-ups where you share what people intend to accomplish and what they're blocked on to drive immediate work forward. Have a retrospective meeting, which might be a 45-minute meeting to reflect on what has happened in the past week or in the past or every 2 weeks to improve yourselves, right? And at the broader company, if you're the CEO, if you're head of multiple branches, multiple departments, you might want to consider an all hands meeting that's just focused on strategy, you sharing your key metrics and just cross team updates so that people, as they work in their small pods, small teams, they can have the broader context of the organization. The key thing is just not the fact that you're having these meetings, but just that each particular meeting sticks to its purpose. If someone raises something that deserves a retrospective meeting in a daily stand-up, you can just forward them to, hey, why don't you go talk to your manager about this? Or maybe, why don't we put that in the retro and we will actually discuss it then. Most things can actually just be pushed. Most things that are raised as urgent can actually just wait. And understand that, okay, all hands are for alignment, they're not for problem solving, right? Like we're creating alignment. You can problem solve at individual units. Here we are discussing the broader org goals. So as a reflection for you, you can just share either in chat or just make a mental note, which one of these areas do you think speaks to you the most? And you could work on to reduce ambiguity in your team over the next 2 to 3 weeks to improve how you communicate. Just pick one, make it clear, have clear communication lines, shared knowledge base, and intentional discussions, and reduce ambiguity around those. The next thing that we look at is accountability. And this is your ownership system, your trust mechanism. How do people know and believe that when we say something will get done, and when I hand off something, it will actually get to a point of completion? and how do we build this particular ownership? How do we establish ownership? The one thing to understand is there are three things. One, set up people for end-to-end ownership, establishing psychological safety, and clarity. This is just making expectations and metrics and feedback loops very explicit. And the idea here is on the aspect of setting people for ownership is you need to have defined accountable units, right? These are units or teams or squads, whatever it is that you call them. Ensure that they have their responsibilities cut out. They know where their mandate starts and where their mandate ends, and where they what theirs is, right? They have a clear definition of what theirs is. Reduce ambiguity in that, and watch the team efficiency basically just go up, which basically just turns performance makes performance a lot more sustained and accountable. One of the ideas here is basically just document your responsibilities, right? Have a lightweight, responsible, accountable, consulted, informed documentation, a RACI doc, which basically has who decides what, that is open to the whole company, that people can actually say, okay, in this team, okay, this team is accountable for this, but in this particular team, this person, this is the RACI doc, and this is who needs to take ownership over thing X or Y. And just imagine a time whereby you went into a company and you were given this mandate, you're given this task, and at some point of handing off, you're being thrown around, right? You can reflect. I had consulting days where you had to go and demo what you've done, and no one is taking ownership of signing off on this. So everyone is passing you on to the next department, which wasn't such a good thing, which showed me that, yeah, these people clearly do not have, there could be other things, but there's clearly no ownership in such a situation. The other thing basically is psychological safety, right? We discussed the retro meeting early, or the retrospective meeting. And even as you're building this high accountability culture, the key thing to understand is that it shouldn't mean high blame. In other words, people should feel protected you want people to admit mistakes. You want to know what's not working in the team so that you can fix it. At least for sane organizations, that's what happens, right? You want to know what has broken so that you can fix it. You want to essentially know what doesn't work so that we become better than the competition in this case. And in retrospective meetings, basically, these are good places to do this. The focus of the conversations should just be like, what did we learn and how do we present this? Instead of who messed up, who did this wrongly? No, it's okay. Why did this? Just use the 5 whys, right? Why did this happen? Why did this happen? And get to that particular root cause. And then now feed this into the knowledge system, basically your shared documentation. These learnings go there, and you keep creating this virtuous cycle in which you're always improving. Another thing is on clarity. You need to make your expectations, metrics, and feedback loops very explicit. So have accountability expectations on goals and what teams are expected to accomplish in a place that's very visible, right? If you have decided that this is how we are working as a team, this is what we want to accomplish as a team, have that documented somewhere, that in Q1 this team has committed to doing these things. It could be as simple as an Excel doc with your rows and columns saying each team has committed to. You can use a system called objective and key results. So this team, this objective is the grand objective. These are the key results, and these are the initiatives that we are taking to actually ensure that we are driving these key results forward. And each key result in that case has a clear owner, a measurable target, and is just transparency visible. And the idea around this is now you can use the meetings that you've established. As you can see now, things are starting to feed into each other. Once you have this, now your purposeful meetings are actually about more meaningful topics, and you're driving value on each and every interaction basically is an opportunity to drive value, to report where things are blocked on, to basically just report where things are not moving, and also to report successes. You can even have meetings whereby you basically have OKR, these high objective check-ins where the owner of the objective is the one leading the meeting, and they're basically sharing their learnings, they're leading this, they're owning this, and everyone else is there basically to ask if to give help, offer feedback, but it's the owner who is guiding that particular discussion. So again, I ask, between setting your team out for clear end-to-end ownership, psychological safety, and just driving clarity around making those expectations and feedback loops explicit, which one of these do you think you can act on to reduce ambiguity in your team over the next 2 to 3 weeks to just improve your accountability? Yeah, you decide. Again, you can post in the chat, it's okay, or you can just write it down somewhere. The last one for the day before we head into our Q&A session is going to be execution. And this is your delivery system. And this is the engine that powers value, the doing. So far, we've been dealing with the organization. So now let's deal with the doing. And how do you structure this? So one, make ongoing work visible, meaning one question, do the right people know what's happening in their domain? Can they see what's in progress, pending, and blocked? Do you have places where where activities that are happening within your organization are very visible? It's the thing that's not known that gets ignored, that doesn't get done. And later on, someone asks, hey, I thought this had an owner, but someone is like, okay, we didn't even know that was happening in the first place. So, the good thing is at least there's a lot of tech, but there's also, you don't need to use tech necessarily to do this, but just simple, progress tracker. Have a board where you write, like we have these leads that we are pursuing in progress, right? If you're in sales, we have this work that is visible. Just having a place where people can see what is visible already psychologically causes them to connect with the work, and they're able to actually think about it. It's able to process in the subconscious, and you can have this easy ways depending on how you work. If you're in a brick and mortar situation, definitely having things in paper on a board definitely helps. Same can work if you're in a very tech savvy or software environment, or you can use a simple just Excel sheet to just have everything that you point to and say, yeah, this is at this point, this is 80% done, or a tracking tool if you want to invest in one of them. And the idea is that this is visible and people know that this is the one place we go to check and know that this is the one place, has to be one place. This is where you know this work is happening. This is how you know every initiative that is in progress and where it's at and who owns it and so on. So make work visible. The other thing is making the delivery process repeatable, right? You have to at least ask yourself, how many of my processes can be repeated if a different person does them? If someone were to be onboarded, would the quality drop significantly if someone came and decided, if I had to onboard someone on this line of work, would quality drop significantly? Or would they be able to, under some training, they can actually check out your SOPs, standard operating procedures, or courses that you put either in an L&D platform or your docs. They can look at them and be able to reproduce, right? Not obviously on the first month, they will have to be definitely guided, but and also on this, you can actually check out, we did cover a way in which you can actually improve this delivery process. We did a webinar last month, which was around the employee competence journey. You can check it out on the YouTube channel. It's around cutting staff onboarding time. So that we dealt a lot with how you can actually do this in a very practical way on a day-to-day basis. And the idea around just repeatability is, how replicable is what you're doing? How much of that particular process can be repeated by someone? So the idea is to have at least 80% of core processes repeatable to just keep training overhead low. I would just tip here is, yeah, just spend time each month, none of the meetings, to just work and see, okay, which are the common areas in which you're feeling that could use a bit of repeatability or checklisting to make them at least to drive the quality up. And the last thing is the standardization aspect. Do you have a definition of what a good outcome looks like, right? For each and every role, when they're executing, when they're delivering, do you have, beyond even just the job description, like the role expectation? Do you know what this person, which areas this particular role is supposed to be responsible for, and what good looks like? It feels obvious, and most of these things even sound simple, but then that's a problem because they sound simple, people assume and don't get to doing them. And it's a simple stuff that you don't do that ends up biting you. So having a definition of what is a good standard, if you're in media, if you work at a production plant, and you've hired the person to do production, what does good production look like? Is it written down? What does bad look like? What does average look like? What does above expectation look like? And you'll understand that when you work on this and reduce the ambiguity, when you actually just have a written down expectation, what just good delivery looks like for each particular role, like that reduces ambiguity in outcome expectation. So the best thing is this can later on just help in making better hiring decisions and bubbles up into easier hiring because you know what skills to look for in a role. And just a final reflection is, which one of these areas, visibility, repeatability, and standardization, right? Which one would you work on, and which area of this could you work on to just reduce ambiguity on over the next 2 to 3 weeks to just improve your execution? So with that, we are in the Q&A session right now. So I will take your questions in chat if you can write them down. And yes, I will open for questions or comments, basically. Just share your experience and so on. I'm not seeing any questions in chat at the moment. So what I can just say is thank you for attending, and in closing, the webinar has been recorded and will be sent to the email that you used to register once it's available on the Tizisha YouTube channel, which you can also just subscribe to. And if you feel like you would like us to help you implement the ideas shared in this webinar in your organization, feel free to send an email to hello@mail.tizisha.com and or just reply to the webinar reminder email that you received, which should just share which we should just receive on the same particular email. So yeah, I would say thank you so much for joining, and I hope this helps you scale more order in your team.